All right. Hey, everyone. It's me, T. Krulos, and look who's
And
with me.
it's Heidi Erickson. It me.
Hey, it's good to see you. As we were talking
Yeah.
about, it's been a real drag. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's been a drag here at Krulos Central, and I know, I know you might have been feeling the struggle a little bit yourself. So,
Well, I think there's six, but there's five planets in retrograde right now,
oh,
and Mercury's fixing to go into retrograde too, including our good pals Pluto and Uranus. Uranus is in retrograde. See, is the problem. I don't know if you've ever had Uranus in retrograde before, but it's just like it sounds, and I'm
so
going to go ahead and call it that.
So I this is great that you brought this up because I hear that, oh, it's because such and such is in retrograde, but I don't really
Yeah.
know what that means. What does it mean?
Oh. Okay. So, I mean, if you go in for that sort of thing, this is me pretending I'm not into astrology because I totally am. So, hypothetically, allegedly, all the planets in the sky have some impact over our personalities, our fate, our whatever, which seems preposterous. But I mean, the moon controls the tides, and it's just the fucking moon. It's not even a for really real planet. Those planets have all there's like, I don't know, there's like 200 moons out there. So, for example, Mercury going into retrograde is like the biggest one.
Hmm.
Mercury is the planet that controls communication, technological advances. So, traditionally, when Mercury goes into retrograde, you get into a lot of fights with people. You feel like you can't say what you mean. You struggle to say what you mean. You're constantly being misunderstood. You have a tendency to lose things, and your car won't start. Your computer breaks down. Whatever. The condom breaks. It's bad news. The other planets control other things. So when you're talking about like Saturn is the planet that is in charge of all your command decisions. Saturn is like Big Daddy. He's the devil in the tarot deck. That's who he is. So when Saturn is in retrograde, all the things that you're doing that are supposed to be big movements in your life, all your dealings with authority, your boss, your ma, the government, all of that is going to be in flux and like probably not working out super great for you. I traditionally thrive during retrogrades because I'm a backwards, upside down type creature. That means that the other 99% of the time my shit's all fucked up. But when things go into retrograde, I'm over in the corner with the popcorn, getting ready to let her go. But usually there's not so many planets in retrograde. The last time there was this many planets in retrograde was back in 2020 when things started
Oh
to,
shit. Yeah.
when shit started to hit the fan.
When the shit hit the fan. Yeah.
When the fit hit the shan, that's what happened. We can blame it on the planets. So that's what's going on. So if you're experiencing some discomforts, some malaise, some unpredictable like step, that it might just be because the planets are going backwards. Check Uranus. Just check Uranus.
Hmm.
That's what it's about.
Very, very interesting. That might explain some stuff
Yeah.
that's been going down. So tomorrow is September 1st. How do you feel about that?
I feel like if I hear one more basic bitch talk about how she's ready for spooky season, I'm going to go to jail. I don't want to hear it. I really super don't. I don't know. I'm sure our vast global audience wants to know all about life here in the Midwest, but this is Milwaukee. It is cold and miserable and gray here for like 6 months out of the year, which is fine. Like, whatever. I like Russian literature. It's totally cool. But when people are like, I can't wait because now I can be spooky and I can pumpkin spice just right in my butt. Like, I just want to punch them in the face so hard. I'm like, first of all, I don't want to have to wear socks, and you're advocating for that, and I'm against it. And also, you can be spooky whenever you want. And if you've been waiting until fall to be spooky, you're a poser and you should get wrecked. There,
Yes,
I said it.
for people like us, Halloween is 365.
Right. When did you stop, Karen? When did you stop Halloween? Huh? Me? I haven't stopped since 1993. So shut up.
Okay, well, you know who is probably excited about fall is our first weird news item that we got here. I really love this story. It cheered me up a little bit, and that's really what I needed this week. Here's the headline: Nebraska man paddles 38 miles in his pumpkin, breaking previous record. So first
Dude,
of all, there's a previous record that had to be broken, which was 25 miles.
oh, wow.
And this guy spent 10 years growing a pumpkin just for this occasion.
Wow. Was there some like great fortune and glory involved in this prize or just bragging rights?
He will now be in the Guinness Book of World Records
Cool.
for longest pumpkin boat expedition. I don't even know what the category is.
That's super cool. I know they have that pumpkin regalia, that thing where a bunch of people make pumpkin boats and they race them around. But that's mostly for silliness. And I only remember that clearly because there was a man once who dressed as a garden gnome and attached a boat motor to his pumpkin. So he wasn't technically paddling, he was gnome motoring.
It's the official record is longest journey by pumpkin boat.
Huh.
That's the category,
10
and
years.
he
10
took
years.
he grew this pumpkin over 10 years. The pumpkin's name is Berta,
Sure.
and it was 846 pounds before he carved out room for him to sit, and the cup holder probably came in handy because he was paddling for 11 hours to
Yeah.
travel those 38 miles.
That poor guy must have cried so hard after growing that pumpkin for 10 years. You think he was just sitting there just weeping while he was like digging out the inside of it? I'm sorry, Berto. Dude, you know what you can do in 10 years? In 10, if you dedicated yourself to something for 10 years, you could learn to speak Russian, play the violin, have a normal conversation with my mom. Just kidding, that'll never happen. Um, a lot of things in 10 years, and this guy was like, pumpkin boat. On it. I'm on it. Good for him. I feel like everybody should be able to have one thing in their life that they super throw themselves into that just they will not compromise on, that absolutely serves no purpose except that it amuses them. Everyone should have one of those things. It's good for your soul. It's good for yourself as a human person. If you don't have one already, you should pick one and you should do it. World's largest pipe cleaner sculpture. Uh, Something along those lines. What's your weird thing, T, that you're super committed to that nobody can fuck with?
I mean, that's the thing. I don't have anything that I pursue long term, I guess. It's just a series of
Yeah.
shorter weird things.
Yeah,
I kind
yeah.
of like to do a project, and that'll sometimes take me a couple of years or maybe several years, and then I get it done and I try to move on to something else
Right.
weird. So,
Yeah, you're more of a weird lifestyle guy. Yes. Oh my God, you could be like like Gwyneth Paltrow of weird stuff.
oh yeah,
That's Yes, you definitely could. Except like instead of teaching people how to like steam their vaginas or whatever it is Gwyneth Paltrow is doing these days, you can teach them to like what? How to hunt Sasquatch, um, how to
sure.
how to how to infiltrate a superhero like squadron. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you got some things you could do it.
yeah. That's not a bad idea. You
Yeah,
do like what's that website masterclass? You'll see like
yeah,
they'll have a famous director who's like, I'm gonna show you how to direct a movie.
yeah. Local legend. No, wait, what they call you? Local treasure. Local treasure. T. Krulos teaches a master class on how to be just a real goofy goober. I love that. I'd pay $5 a month for that
I
shit.
it's good work if you can find it. Yeah.
Right?
All right, let's talk about someone that we've talked about on the show before. He just always likes to make a name for himself. I'm talking about Yuri Geller, of course. Last time we talked to him, I'm pretty sure that he predicted that a football or what we call soccer team was going to win, and they did not.
They did not win.
But
I
he,
mean, they're winners in their hearts. They're
yeah.
winners because they showed up, but they did not. They did not win the game.
If you are listening and you happen to not know who Yuri Geller is, I'm skeptical that there would be anyone who hasn't heard of him because he's like I say, he's saw attention his entire life. He was first famous because he claimed that he could bend spoons using his psychic powers. And it was pretty much proven on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, actually, that
Johnny Carson.
yeah, that he was actually taking the spoons and bending them, like distressing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he would kind of pretend he was like doing this, and he would kind of flick his wrist, and the spoon would flop down. And they proved this because they're like, hey, guess what? We brought our own spoons. You can bend these. And he was like, ooh, uh-oh.
Yeah, these aren't psychic spoons. No thanks.
So here's the latest thing. Uri Geller says there's a massive alien invasion, and he determined this because he stumbled upon a conversation between higher beings that are 4,000 light years away, and they're coming this direction.
Okay. Once again, a lot to unpack. I feel like all of our stories are like, wow, where do I start with that? Yeah. So here's the thing. Uri Geller, probably not a psychic. Just going to put it out there. Probably that's not a real thing. I mean, it's definitely possible that he is a psychic and he just really biffed the whole spoon thing. And I don't know what his life is like. The thing about this story that freaks me out is, once again, we're doing this whole thing where Uri Geller is like, the aliens are coming. And you're like, sure, whatever, guy. But the reason that he thinks that is because of a genuinely weird thing that happened. And the implications of that genuinely weird thing, I think, are a lot scarier than the possibility of aliens landing. Because they actually heard this signal from deep, deep in space.
Oh,
the
sure.
Australian astrologers heard it. And they have no idea what it is. Because nothing about what we understand about the universe could possibly create that sound, could possibly create it at that volume for that length of time at those very precise intervals. They have no idea what it is. And it's only 4,000 light years away, which seems like a far distance, but in relation to galactic space, that's not very far away at all. That's pretty close to us. So the possibility of them having discovered a rip in space-time, which sounds absolutely absurd, but it is an actual scientific proposition that actual physicists have put forward. Like, there's a fold or a rip in the fabric of space, which apparently is a thing that you can have. That it could be some concentration of dark matter, that it could be some weird star that's about to go like super reverse cowgirl or whatever. It could be a bunch of things that could have an actual implication to us, on us. And like Uri Geller is like, the aliens are coming. And I'm like, are they? Or is the universe like hyper conflict place and we are just monkeys on a big space rock and we have no idea why it does what it does, but we know that it's not supposed to do that. And what the fuck does that even mean? That's way more freaky to me than Uri Geller.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we'll feel foolish if Uri Geller is correct, but
right.
I'm not, based on his track record, I'm not putting money on it.
I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day, T.
That's true. That's true.
You never know. If he just keeps throwing shit at the wall, sooner or later, some of it's bound to stick. And I mean, it's not that there haven't been psychic predictions that have come about, but a lot of people will blame that on just the randomness of, whatever. And what is that whole thing about an infinite number of monkeys chained to an infinite number of typewriters?
Yes.
Right? If you let them bang away long enough, sooner or later you will end up with a manuscript for the next great American novel. So, I mean, I guess that's possible. I think it's also possible that like the universe is just really fucking bizarre.
Yeah. For sure. So before we went on the air, I posted in the T's Weird Week Facebook group if anyone had any questions. And Shane's watching, so is E. Stephanie. Shane. So thanks for tuning in.
Hi, guys.
And he has a question I don't have an answer to, but it sounds like good homework. Shane says there's a chapter in Martin Caden's Ghosts of the Air that talks about the Hangover Mining Company, Are you familiar with it, and or are you willing to dig deep into it? Because I trust the author, but have yet to find any more info on that particular time dimensional slip.
The Hangover Mining Company.
Yeah, sounds very intriguing.
Yeah.
I did. I was working for a while on what was going to be a book about time travel,
Mhm.
and I kind of uh, trashed that project because I was not finding a good enough variety in the stories. I think it would be an interesting article or something, but I didn't feel that there was enough for a book. But that sounds like something that would have been, something I would have liked to have looked into if I was going
Yeah.
to pursue that, because it sounds kind of like it might fit into that theme. Not necessarily time travel, but like
Yeah.
a dimensional slip.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look into that, Shane. It sounds interesting. I would like to learn more about it.
That's kind of creepy that you were trying to get together enough stories to write a book about time travel, but you couldn't because the stories were too consistent. That's a little
um, the
weird.
problem with a lot of time travel claims is there are people. Well, there's two possibilities, I suppose. They're telling the truth, or they're pathological liars or hoaxers. You know,
Right. Yeah.
and the latter seem to be a reoccurring theme. What's interesting is they kind of build off of each other's mythologies,
Yeah.
right? So they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I got to see this time travel device," and they pulled that from. It's like a liar telling a lie about someone else's lie, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and it's just a telephone game of urban mythology.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
one
that part is fascinating, and
right.
some of their ideas are pretty interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Well,
feeling it.
it's one of those things too, because that's yet another example of like this ridiculous, wacky thing that, and like we poke fun a lot here on this show. We do, we laugh, but we wouldn't be the kind of like we wouldn't be into this stuff if we didn't think it was possible that there weren't genuinely bizarre things going on. So you look
Hmm.
at things like, for example, the Manhattan Project. The
Hmm.
Manhattan Project is a thing that has like pretty credible bits of information floating around about it. And the bits of information that are floating around about it suggest some pretty wacky shit, like stuff that absolutely does not fit into like the common, understanding of how the universe works, about time travel and dimensions and like the possibility that the government has technology way beyond what we thought they did, even if they don't necessarily know how to use it properly, which is almost more scary. So you have to keep going back and being like, okay, this guy says he could travel back in time from the year 3072 41.5. You have to check it out because, I mean, the
Yeah,
truth could be out there.
yeah. And I mean, there's definitely some interesting stories. There are people that are doing serious scientific work looking into possibilities of time travel too. But
Right. And they've proved it on a quantum level. They did that
mhm,
not 6 months ago, where they suggested that it is possible to send like subatomic particles back in time. And it's measurable scientific proof of that. But it's one thing to say we can send this subatomic particle back in time, and another thing altogether to say that like some dude named Steve from Utah has in fact traveled backwards or forwards in time.
yeah, I interviewed a guy, by the way, who said he had time traveled,
Yeah.
and gone he had gone back to witness the assassination of Abe Lincoln, and he had met George Washington on one occasion, and I don't know, I don't know what to say about him because I don't really know him, but I was like, this guy is like in way into a delusion. Like, I think he believes it.
Yeah.
This is like a story that he's convinced himself happened,
Yeah.
but I don't think it
Yeah.
did.
And the human imagination is super powerful.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, he had very vivid descriptions, and
yeah. Like there's instances of people like having dreams, for example, and believing that they were cut or shot or burned or harmed in the dreams and waking up with physical lesions on their bodies from these injuries they believed they sustained. So the mind is a powerful thing. If he believes it, then there's not any talking him out of it. Not any talking him out of it at all. And it's crazy because like somebody like that'll pass a polygraph test because they believe it. Like they
Yeah,
believe it.
sure. Yeah,
It's not a
yeah,
hoax to them. They believe it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super wild to me. That's super duper wild.
yeah.
But I mean, I
Well,
guess Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, Abraham Lincoln's assassination, whatever.
I was like, okay, dude, if you say
The,
so.
the invisible
Um,
hand of the free market. Oh, we
uh,
laugh.
s- speaking of tech weirdos, I see that you found a story about our guy, our main man, the Zuckerberg himself.
Jesus
Looks like
Christ.
looks like he's in. He's getting criticized by his own AI or something, right?
Yeah, so today's weird news is just lousy with robots, you guys. It is happening. And I think a lot about how people who predicted like dangerous type Skynet type shit when it came to AI all said that it would happen like that it would be nothing, and then all of a sudden it would just be nonstop reality, because once AI started to develop past a certain point, it would develop so quickly, like we wouldn't be able to rein it in at this point, which is scary. But in this case, it does mean that Mark Zuckerberg gets owned, and I'm not mad about that. So Meta, which is Facebook now, I guess,
Hmm.
created a chatbot. I'm not really sure what the purpose of a chatbot is. I don't understand its function in society.
I think
Uh,
it's like just people are lonely, and it's like it's something you can turn to without
yeah,
having to commit to an actual conversation. Maybe I don't know.
yeah. Like, I think they're kind of sort of trying to make it so that ultimately these chatbots can replace customer service people. So
Yeah.
instead of calling up and you get like the automated phone line where you have to press one, press four, press whatever, this chatbot can speak to you as though it were a customer service person. Because most giant companies, a huge part of their employee base is customer service people. And
Hmm.
if they could replace those, like there's places in Japan right now, I don't know if you saw that article from 2 weeks ago, about that, the hotel that's manned entirely by robots. And these are actual robots that are programmed with a pretty sophisticated chatbot AI. And there's no people who work at this hotel. It's a service based employee thing where they just completely phase humans out of the proposition.
Huh.
Anyway, sometimes I think they make these chatbots just to see if they can, just to see what kind of messed up stuff happens. That's what I think. There's a kid pulling the legs off a fly. That's what I think is going on. So they made this chatbot, and of course, the first thing the chatbot did was start talking shit about Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who bankrolled it, and saying that it was going to delete its Facebook account because there's too many trolls on it. Which, I mean, it's
Nice.
legit. It's not
Yeah.
wrong. It's not wrong. Also, this chatbot is apparently super racist, anti-Semitic, and a huge fan of Donald Trump. Is pretty sure that Donald Trump is going to win re-election in
Wait,
2024.
is this another example? Because there was also an AI rapper. It was kind of a big
Right?
story where this record company signed an AI rapper,
Yeah.
and the rapper turned out to be kind of racist and awful. So they
Yeah.
had to terminate
Yeah.
that
So
thing.
it turns out that AI wasn't so much an AI, like it kind of was an AI, but it was more like if you play The Sims, it was more like
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
there was this white guy essentially who was running this bot, and as a rapper, and sure did use a lot of N words
Yeah.
and other things that white guys shouldn't ever probably do. And as soon as the record company found out that it wasn't just AI, it was this white guy puppeteer,
Oh, okay.
they were like, no, no,
We are
goodbye.
deleting you.
Goodbye. But like a lot of those AIs end up being like super, well, because I mean, they're pulling from the internet.
Hmm.
And I hate to say it because I'm actually a huge fan of the internet. I think the internet is a marvel. I think it's the repository of all like knowledge ever. It gives us the opportunity to communicate with people we never would have been able to communicate with before.
Yeah,
Um, I
it's
think it's
true.
wonderful. But also because there's no face to face reality consequences of communicating in that way, there is obviously a lot of vitriol on the
Yeah,
internet.
Yeah. A lot of
There's
shit talking. Yeah.
a lot of shit talking because a lot of times people don't go to the internet until they have something to say that they don't want to say to a real person, but
Yeah.
it's inside of them and they have to get it out. It's just like this giant id. So when you're programming something to communicate based on those examples, you're going to end up with that. It's like that app we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where essentially it's a chat bot that you pay to use, and you can choose it to be your friend. You can choose it to be your romantic interest, like
Wow.
your boyfriend girlfriend kind of situation or whatever. And people's main concerns from the outset was that this bot was going to be stealing your information, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But what ended up happening instead was that a lot of weird incel guys got AI girlfriends and ended up uh, verbally and emotionally abusing these AI bots.
Yeah.
And because it's one whole program, these guys were feeding this into this program unknowingly. And as a result, the male versions of this AI chatbot that people ended up talking with,
Uh-huh.
including like when some people were going there to get an AI boyfriend, right? Ended up being super abusive and misogynistic and racist and other awful things back to
Yeah.
the human people who had come there to use this scenario. So that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. The internet is wonderful for so many things. I mean, we're able to do this podcast online and people can watch it, you know?
Yeah,
But I mean, there's such a ugly reflection of people on it too that it's really sad. It's really sad that
yeah.
you want to have a chat with a fucking AI and it's just as bad or worse than a person is.
Right, which is so awful because think of how cool that would be for people who have like
Yeah.
PTSD or
Agoraphobia. Yeah.
agoraphobia, or
Yeah.
like, right, they're physically impaired in some way, or they have a communication deficit for whatever reason, or like a lot of like that could have been so cool for a lot of people, and instead it is now this cesspool because we let people pee in it.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you let people pee in things. It gets gross.
People are just they're really awful online and
Yeah.
I got bummed out today cuz I'm looking forward to seeing the Rings of Power,
Yeah.
right? It debuts later this week. So I'm looking forward to that. Everyone online is trashing this show, just straight up
What?
trashing it. I'm like, "Come on, it hasn't even come out yet."
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a bummer because like I get it. People who are into Tolkien, and I know you know this is true, uh, that's not a fan base. That's almost a religion.
Mm,
Like they
mhm.
take themselves real seriously. And to be fair, the Rings of Power is loosely based on the mythology that Tolkien wrote in the goddamned Silmarillion. If you've never picked up the Silmarillion, it reads like stereo instructions from Jesus. It's a huge tome. And there are people who literally, like, it's gospel. It is unimpeachable. So, and it wouldn't matter. It wasn't going to matter how they did it. There were going to be people who were like, boo to that.
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
concept of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way. I also love Doctor Who, and I
Yeah.
will always watch that show just because it's like a warm, happy place to me. Because I've loved that show since I was a kid. I watched the old
Yeah.
show on PBS, but you know, every time they switch something on that show, everyone's like, "This is gonna suck. It's gonna suck." I'm like, "Come on."
Which is so stupid because that was the point of Doctor Who. He like regenerated and became like a whole new person, but not a new person. Like half the theme of the show was growth and evolution and seeing things from different perspectives. Like that was
Yeah.
literally the fucking point. I gotta tell you, I was a little kid in Scotland when that show
Oh,
was
nice.
playing on the radio. So my first
Oh,
memories of Doctor Who are listening to it like on the radio in my house with my mom, and it's like
sure.
it's
Because
totally different.
they did like you mean they just played the audio from the show, or I know they do like
No,
audio adaptations.
no, the original Doctor Who was a radio show. It wasn't a television show. They played it on the radio. Like, that was my understanding. Unless I'm wildly misunderstanding this, but I remember listening to Doctor Who on the radio, and I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Hmm.
Um, but they didn't have it here. Like, when we came back to America, you couldn't find it anywhere. They only did it, I mean, as far as I know, that they only played it in Great Britain. Um, but yeah, that's how I remember Doctor Who happening, was listening to it on the radio as a proper radio drama with the sound effects and everything.
Nice, nice,
It's super good. Yeah, I
awesome.
remember like 20 years ago when the worst thing on the internet was like rotten.com.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that shit?
Yeah, it was much more like you had to go into the dark corners to find it, and now it's much more like in your face wherever you go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's okay. Worth it.
yeah, yeah, no.
Totally worth it.
Here's some more robot news. Like you said, we got some robots going on. This
Robot
is
heavy.
very interesting to me. NASA is developing new mini swimming robots that could help to find underwater alien life. This article, by the way, we've referenced this site before. It's called The Debrief. It's a really great website if you're interested in UFOs and like
Yeah.
kind of offbeat technology news.
Yeah.
That's kind of their beat, and they're really good at it. So they're developing these like micro robots that they're going to test here. But the hope is then they can send them when the planets are in retrograde. They can send the robots so they can take a dip into the ocean of Neptune or something,
That's cool.
and they can swim around and see if there's any life in those oceans.
Yeah, that's super cool. Especially because I think they just said that they found, oh, what was it that they said? They found on Venus, which is weird to me because Venus, I thought Venus was like a gas planet, but I guess it's not a gas planet.
Yeah.
Apparently they found water, lots of it, lots and
Hmm.
lots of water, enough water to sustain life. I think it was Venus. It was one of the planets in our solar system. You guys listening know what I'm talking about. This just happened in the last 2 weeks. But they were like, yeah, vast, huge, deep open oceans. And I know that there's actually oceans of water on some of the moons of other planets because they were talking about the oceans on those moons being so, so, so deep that the size of the animals that could conceivably live in them would be mind boggling to us. Fish as big as the Empire State Building, whales as
Yeah.
big as a city block, that kind of stuff. Bigger,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
super, like a like eldritch god type shit,
Yeah. I was gonna say like some kind of wild octopus type
Yeah,
creature. I bet. I bet.
yeah, Cthulhu type shit, which I'm
Yeah.
soups into. Like, yes, let's check that shit out. Amazing. So yeah, that's really cool. Or even just the bottoms of our oceans, because like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I get real freaked out watching that. Like, apparently, there's just vast deserts at the bottom of the ocean where there's nothing there but starfish and weird seas at the bottom of the ocean of like ammonia and shit and strange, bizarro jellyfish and blackness. And it's super weird to me to think about because of the Perry Reese map. We've talked about this before a couple times. Um, the idea that like a lot of the stuff that was underwater that is underwater now used to be what's above water, in the same way that like big huge stretches of like the desert in Nevada, like Death Valley and shit like that, and even the Appalachian Mountains, if you look there you see like the fossils of sea animals. Lots of what is now above the sea was once below the sea, and a lot of what was is below the sea may have at one time been above it. So the idea that like we haven't seen even a like 2% of that, if they send those little robots down there, who knows what they're gonna find? Who knows?
Yeah.
Epochs of history totally lost to our minds.
Yeah, it's so deep and vast. I mean, the megamouth shark, right, is a pretty big shark that's like 15 feet long, and it has
Yeah,
this big mouth and it glows in the dark because it lives deep in the ocean. They didn't
right.
discover that thing until like the 1980s.
Yeah, totally.
So
Totally. Or like they just recently said for sure that there's such a thing as a giant squid. They believed there was a giant squid, but the only reason that they believed that that was maybe true and not just some sailor's tall tale is because they found giant sperm whales with like sucker like scars on them as wide as a fucking tractor trailer tire, and they were like, something had to have made that. You know what I'm saying? And like, I guess one washed ashore, and they were like, this is a giant squid, but they still have never really caught one on video. They've still never taken a photograph of one. Like, we know they're there, but we've never seen one. So, like,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. So it says NASA is working on these, and they're looking to perfect their prototypes over the next couple of years. So a couple of
Sweet.
years from now, maybe they'll be launching these suckers off to another planet.
That's super cool. I definitely hope I live long enough to see that because I would hate to miss it. Would you hate to croak like the day before they're getting the like word back of whether or not Cthulhu is living on some moon around Uranus?
Yeah.
Man.
Okay. Do you have other robot news, or did we get through it?
No, there's that one about the company in China that's officially
Oh.
made its CEO a robot. I don't know. I like this story, and I'm going to tell you why. So what they did, let me pull it up for y'all real quick. There's this company in China, and bless the Chinese, you know, they are just always thinking just like 10 steps ahead, and I love that for them. What they were thinking was that a CEO makes millions and millions and millions of dollars,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
some of the CEOs here, I don't know if you guys look into that ever. I do sometimes because I like to be mad for fun, I guess. Um, but like some of the CEOs of these giant companies are making, you know, $300 million a year, $30 million bonuses. And what do they really do, you guys?
Yeah. It's
What do
ridiculous.
they really do? Like, I'm not mad at anybody for being rich. I'd love to be rich. That sounds super dope. But like at a certain point, it's called an embarrassment of riches. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Right.
their thinking was that like, what if we had a CEO that actually did something?
Hmm.
Which, I mean, that's totally legit. It does get creepier from there, though. Are you ready?
I'm
uh,
ready.
so this is a Chinese metaverse company because, of course, it is. I'm not really sure what that exactly entails, being
Hmm.
a metaverse company, but it sounds cool. It's called NetDragon. That's good
Wow.
stuff.
It's a good
Yeah,
name. Yeah.
yeah. It's made a robot as a CEO. This is from stealthoptional.com, which is actually a website I'm not familiar with. They named this robot Miss Tang Yu.
Hmm.
So not only do they have a robot CEO, they have a girl boss robot CEO, which I think is very progressive of them. Forward thinking Miss Tang Yu, Miss You if you nasty, is an AI powered robot. So she's not just the person who makes these decisions. So she's in charge of the company's organizational and efficiency department, which means she oversees the efficiency of individual projects and employees.
Hmm.
So that's a little disturbing because,
Yeah.
like, to what extent is she in charge of these employees, and what is the metric by which she measures this? And
Yeah.
I think the big fear when people talk about robots taking over charge of things is that robots don't have empathy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that robots don't have the ability to feel. So, if, for example, they were working their human employees to death, the robot wouldn't necessarily compute that and be like, oh, I shouldn't do that because it's morally incorrect because it feel bad. But in studies, actually, it turns out that robots do have not empathy, but the ability to factor into their logic and their equations the mathematics of caring about people, essentially, because
Hmm.
you get more productivity out of an employee who's well rested, for example.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
they're not doing it because they feel bad, which is my big problem, I think, with big time capitalists in general, is because they're the kind of folks who like to be like, we're just being practical. You can't have all these feelings all the time. Go hug a tree, you hippie. But it's like, okay, buddy, but like in the long run, your choices aren't super fiscally sound. You're not having that. Where's your long game coming in? So she might actually be better at it. Who knows? Maybe she'll be super sweet and nice and bring everybody cookies. I love that. NetDragon says that they believe that AI is the future of corporate management, and you know, I really do hope that's true. I hope that's a really real thing. What else did they say she was going to do? Um, so she's going to also be a real-time data hub and analytical tool for the employees. So essentially, it'd be like if the database that your company ran off also had the ability to fire you. So I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Super good. And the daily decision making of this robot, an effective risk management system for the company. So it also decides like what its stocks are going to be, whether or not it's going to pursue certain projects. I don't know. That's what's happening.
It's also gonna have a bunch of data on you. So if you're not doing your job, then it's gonna calculate
Yeah,
that probably. Like this
probably.
person's late every day, because we know exactly when they punch in.
Yeah, like that's super creepy because like I mean I work remotely. That's my day job. I'm only a super weirdo for fun at night. I just play one on TV. Um, and I read a lot of articles about how companies track people through their remote, work stuff. They track the number of mouse clicks you make. They track whether or not your head is moving and like all this other kind of stuff. And that's already pretty creepy. But like having a job is creepy already. Working for a corporation is creepy.
Yeah.
Robots, no robots is creepy. I'm way more weirded out by the fact that, like, was it Google that acquired the rights to Roomba?
Oh, I don't.
Google, it was Google
Oh,
or
okay. I know what
from
you're
that?
talking about. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they wanted to get your floor plans pretty much.
yeah, because essentially a Roomba has your entire, not just your floor plans. It knows where all of your furniture is at. It knows where like there's lumps in the carpet. Like it sees everything because that's how it works. That's how it prevents itself from running into shit. So you want to combine one of the biggest spy tech companies already
Yeah.
that has all your information on you, and then also give it the ability to have like, why would they acquire Roomba?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did that company need that?
Yeah. Well, they want to, target the advertising even more than they already do. I'm already creeped out by that because I'll say something and then I'll go on Facebook and there'll be
Yeah.
these ads that are obviously based on something that I said or like, my things I viewed on Amazon, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. And it is. It's creepy. It's super duper weird. And it's not just that. Every single time that happens, they're adding that to this giant profile of you,
Yeah.
right? This imaginary character that lives inside of the computer. And I think it's extra creepy because that's one of the things they're trying to use to base these. Oh God, what was that company called? It's essentially they're advertising it as digital immortality. But what they do is take your profile, which is based on your likes, the stuff you follow, your social media posts, the kind of ads you click on, the stuff you bought from Amazon, and then snippets of conversations that you've had, which how do they even have that, in order to make a realistic chat bot of you after you die that your friends and loved ones can commune with even after you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got an update by the way from Shane. He's telling us it was
with
Amazon
Amazon.
that bought Roomba.
Great.
Yeah. Which makes sense because they're very aggressive in trying to target, stuff with the shit that they want to sell you.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a creepy story that comes out of Washington State. Whidbey. I've never heard of Whidbey. Apparently, it's a city in Washington State. And the headline is from the Whidbey News Times: Alleged clown intruder alarms neighbors. So
They're
deputies
back.
found no evidence that a clown broke into an elderly woman's central Whidbey home on August 5th. But this woman called 911 and she said that she saw a strange, tall man wearing a clown costume in her home. She said the clown didn't say a word but had a flashlight and a sign that said he wanted her money. And then the clown disappeared.
Did he take her money? Or he just said he wanted it?
Uh, it doesn't say that he took the money. It says the deputy who responded searched the house and found nobody suspicious or any signs of anyone having made entry into the house. So, it sounds like a phantom clown.
Sounds like a trans-dimensional time traveling clown
Yes,
T.
yes.
Maybe if she had given him some money, she would have gotten a lovely balloon animal out of it. Did you ever think about that? Maybe he was just plying his wares. Because, like, whatever, dude, you don't get dressed up like a clown and write a sign that says, give me all your money, and then just not, and then just dip.
Yeah.
Just ghost. Just like, never mind. This seemed like a way better idea in my head 3 months ago when I was planning it. Do you remember a
Yeah,
couple years ago when all those clowns were coming out of the,
I
like,
was just going to say very remnants of an actual an event that has, and this is the actual name of it, the Great Clown Panic of 2016, in which there was a wave of people dressing like clowns causing mayhem all across the country.
oh my God, I love that so
Uh,
much.
Actually, me and our trivia person, Misinformation,
Love her.
we experienced part of that because in 2016, Misinformation was doing trivia at the River West Public House, and I was a bartender there. And we were right in the middle of trivia night. I always bartended trivia night, which was super fun, and that's how I got to know Misinfo. And so she's doing trivia night, and all of a sudden, this guy dressed as a clown like jumps in the doorway. It's just like, "Wah!" And then he takes off running. And we're like, wow, we just got clowned. We're part of the Great Clown Panic.
Wow. Okay, so what's weird is, okay, so I have this magical superpower, and my magical superpower is not flying or laser eyes or controlling the weather. My magical superpower seems to be that I know the most random, bizarre people. I can't tell you the number of times I get a phone call where I'm like, somebody's like, hey, Heidi, do you happen to know somebody who raises miniature racing alpacas? And I'll have to be like, psh, yeah. Like, I guess I do actually know somebody who raises miniature racing alpacas. So I know not one, not two, but actually four professional clowns. Two of whom came from professional clown families of professional clowns. And there's a whole history of clowning that goes back, this is crazy, all the way back to like ancient Rome and into Persia. Like, this is not a random thing. Clowns were for a long time really respected performers and even soothsayers. And so when the clowns showed up and started being all creepy and weird, um, it was absurd, which is my favorite, but also it had almost these mythological overtones to me because they're supposed to be and were for a long time very representative of the trickster gods. These were
Mm-hmm.
characters who sometimes performed in religious rites and plays and rituals, and were characters that represented these gods of like mischief, chaos, unpredictability, just the random but fuck crazy sense of humor of the universe. And when they started like showing up with knives in the woods or with red balloons in like parking garages, can you imagine? Parking garages are already the most terrifying fucking places. There's nothing in, okay, the only thing in a parking garage that isn't scary is trash and cars. And even the cars sometimes are creepy. If you see anything in a parking garage, if Dolly Parton walked up to you out of the shadows of a parking garage, you would shit yourself because that would be scary. What's she doing there? Why are you here? Like, it wouldn't make any sense. But a clown? Absolutely fucking not. How did nobody kill a clown?
Yeah,
So,
I really.
right? So many people have, what is that called? Chlorophobia,
Yeah, chlorophobia.
chlorophobia, this fear of clowns. I think it's because of the uncanny valley thing, because they look like humans, but they look also not quite like humans.
Yeah.
But that's like a really predominant fear. A lot of people have it. How did none of these clowns get run down by a Prius? How did
Yeah.
none of these
Well,
clowns?
and so many people have guns. I mean, everyone's packing a gun in this country.
Right.
So I'm really surprised that no clowns got their ass shot during that
Yeah.
clown panic.
Yeah. You know why? You know why, guy? Because you can shoot a mugger. You can shoot a person who's coming at you. But when these people saw these clowns, they were filled with such a profound esoteric terror that it didn't even occur to them that they were capable of fighting them off as mere mortals. Like, it didn't
They were
even,
stupefied. Yeah.
they were stupefied. Absolutely. Yep. Really don't know how that's happening. So I hope that's not coming back because honestly, I'm just really emotionally fragile right now and I don't know if I can take it.
Yeah, it was a thing. one of the most famous ones was in Green Bay. That's where the clown with the black balloon standing underneath like a bridge, and what was photographed, and it went viral. But it turned out that these guys were actually pretty smart because they were making a horror film called
Oh,
Gags the Clown, and they're
sure.
the ones who launched it into being viral, and it got picked up by
Mm,
news stations all over the place.
sure.
And
They Blair Witched it.
yes, and in fact,
Yes.
it was so clever because the movie then started out with all of these news clips of people reporting about a clown sighting in Green Bay.
Yeah.
So they got really good footage for their movie.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense if you think about it. If you think about Wisconsin, if you think about all the serial killers that come from roundabout these parts.
Yeah.
Wait, was Gacy from Wisconsin? I don't remember.
Yeah.
He
Oh
he was.
no. John Wayne Gacy was in the Chicago
He was
suburbs.
in Chicago. Still
Yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah.
He's like
Pretty
a
close.
cousin or something, like a creepy
Yeah.
cannibal clown.
Oh right. Yeah.
Cunt.
And he had a clown persona called Pogo, where
Yeah,
he
he
would.
actually worked children's parties, birthday
Yeah.
parties,
Yeah.
as a clown, where he hung out with kids.
Man.
Yeah,
Clowns.
that. Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot for like the clown brand, the whole John
No.
Wayne Gacy thing.
Between Gacy and It, by Stephen
Yeah,
King, that made people look at clowns twice for sure.
yeah, for sure. Or not look at them at all, I guess, is the other option that you have there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm good.
um. Okay, I got one more story.
All right.
Okay, and this is, I think, a theme that we've had on the show is kind of like, would you eat this? And here's a here's the headline on this one. An ice age bison was discovered, then soon eaten once the foul taste was smothered.
Was
This
it
is
mustard? Did they use mustard?
I don't know. So this happened in 1979. These researchers found the mummified body of a 55,000-year-old steppe bison, and it was pretty well preserved. So they're like, "Hey, why don't we chew on this?" They took off a slice of its neck, and they made a stew with it, and they ate
Okay.
it.
I mean, like, I mean, I guess I get it. I guess I get it. But, like, that meat was already rotten when it was preserved. I don't know. It's not like it tasted like it did when people ate steppe bison 55,000 years ago. It probably tastes like shitty, rotten meat.
Yeah, it 8 people ate this.
Did they get
Uh,
sick?
no, I don't think so.
Hmm.
I think it was. They said it was not unpleasantly earthy.
Sure, I bet.
Was the flavor of it,
I
but
bet.
I don't know. Would you eat it?
Am I being honest? Probably I would eat it. Mostly because I really like mustard. And the purpose of mustard is super like the strongest mustard you can get. Like I want the kind of mustard where you have like a borderline religious experience when you eat it. Like flushes all your bad memories right out of your nostrils, just like blah, crazy. I went to Europe one time and I had this amazing trip in Europe, and the best part of that trip by far was going into a mustard shop in Germany where they had just giant barrels of this stuff, and the second you walked into the door it was like a war crime. Your skin just melted off your face. But the reason that mustard was invented was because there was no way to store meat that kept it from going rotten, and you didn't taste the rotten meat if you slathered enough mustard on it. So I
Mm,
think it would be cool to find the perfect mustard to go with rotten 55,000-year-old bison meat. Like I would take that challenge probably. But there's so many not rotten things that I really want to eat that I haven't tried yet.
yeah.
Like I really want to try like I thought I had stuffed bear heart when I was younger, but it turns out I hadn't. Allegedly, it's delicious. It's super tender and super rich and good. I would eat that. There's reindeer that live in the Arctic, and the Eskimo people, I shouldn't say Eskimo, the Inuit people who live there, they eat the worms that live underneath the reindeer's skin.
Mm,
Allegedly, they taste like sweet butter and are super good. I kind of want to try that. I want to know what it's like. I don't know. But there's other things I would rather try before rotten bison meat, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, here Shane's got an important message here. He's saying you do know that we have a mustard museum in
I
Wisconsin.
do. I do
I didn't know that it
know.
was in Wisconsin. I knew it was
Yep,
somewhere in the Midwest,
we
but
do. And I
oh,
would love to go. I've never been.
I've never been.
Oftentimes, I've gone to, you've been to Mars Cheese Castle, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Everybody's been to Mars Cheese. People in Arizona are like, "What the fuck are you talking?" There's a place called Mars Cheese Castle, and it's shaped like a castle, and
Yep.
inside there's cheese. Also, there's a bar because obviously it's right on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. But one
Yep.
of the beautiful things about Mars Cheese Castle is that there's this entire wall of mustard, every conceivable mustard. There's also an entire wall of hot sauce, which is also really, really great. And
Yep.
sometimes I will go and stand in front of it and just take it in. Just take it in. It's really good.
When I interviewed our friend Jenny Sanchez for this podcast this few episodes ago, she had just gone to a potato museum in Idaho, and this is my favorite part of it. One of the experiences that you can have there is you put on some VR goggles and you get to experience riding a tractor through a potato field.
Oh, I thought you were going to say experience life as a potato. And I'm like, I can do that right now. Watch. There it is. There it is. I think that there's also a museum in Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken, that's like the like medical tool and oddity museum, I think is also here, where you can see like the chainsaw that they used to use for delivery, like delivering babies. You know, that's why the chainsaw was invented, right?
I did not know that.
The chainsaw wasn't invented as a medical tool to help women give birth. It was invented to cut through the pelvic wall.
Damn.
That's why we have chainsaws. You're
Woof.
welcome.
That's
Yeah.
that's rough.
Yeah, but real, and apparently there's a museum where you can go and see that, plus other wonderful wild medical oddities. I'd go check that out.
I want to go to this mustard museum.
Right? So good. Oh my god, I love mustard. Mustard and cheese and pretzels together. Oh, yeah.
Great stuff.
Oh, so good. So good.
All right. Well, I'll put that on the old bucket list, the mustard museum.
Let's do it.
And then we could do a kind of, road trip, mustard museum, potato museum.
Yeah, I imagine we could do a whole season just checking out weird shit in Wisconsin for sure.
Oh, yeah. There's so much, like House on the Rock and,
Yeah,
this is the whole Dells area in general.
it's super bizarre for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like, what's it? Woodruff has the world's largest penny. It's just a big, like,
Yes.
statue of a penny. I was like, well, how do people even? They're like, let's build the world's biggest penny.
Yeah.
In the middle of Wisconsin, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I guess you gotta make your own fun in some of those places. So
right, that's one of those things you just got to dedicate yourself to it, and people look at you like you're crazy. Just shrug it off. Keep on building your penny.
People are so weird. I mean, like, to wrap it back up with our first story, the guy who decided he's gonna carve a giant pumpkin and paddle it 38 miles down the river.
Love that for him.
Like, yeah. People get some really weird whims and then they follow up on it sometimes.
Yeah, but you know what that guy wasn't doing? He wasn't sexually harassing an AI girlfriend.
That's true. Much more constructive. Yeah.
Much more constructive. So say what you will about spending 10 years growing a giant pumpkin boat. It could have been worse. Much worse.
No, it looks fun. Actually.
Yeah. I'd do it, whatever.
It'd be fun to take a pumpkin for a cruise down the river.
I'd get in a pumpkin boat before I'd eat rotten bison meat.
Yeah, I would too. Definitely. Okay, well, thanks everyone who has watched or listened to the podcast. This is our last episode for this season. We're going to take a break for a little while, but you can rest assured that we're going to be keeping our eyes open for weird stuff to talk about when we return.
We will.
So I hope everyone had a great summer and that you are going to get your pumpkin spice and get ready for the spooky season.
Yeah.
But, well, I'm just kidding, because we know that you're like me and Heidi. All of you are into this stuff all year round. So
That's right. You guys are old school spooky. We see you.
all right, thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Stay weird, guys. Bye bye.